Hello, and welcome back to the Victorious'Wool podcast. I think this is episode 28. I have a really fun conversation topic that I wanted to discuss. See if anyone else has things to add to the topic of how to choose a sweater size. And then I have just a few projects to show you. I haven't been knitting a super ton lately. Just don't knit as much anymore as I used to. Who knows what will happen in the future. I did knit a lot in 2020 and 2019 and then 2021 and then into this year. I just got doing a lot more variety of things, so I can't spend hours and hours knitting every day like I do. Trying to get back. I have so many projects that I would love to finish, but yeah, the idea of choosing a sweater size came up this morning because I got an email from my favorite local yarn shop, Tolt Yarn and Wool, which is in Carnation, Washington. It's a couple hours away from me. I have to take a ferry to get there, and I don't go very often, but they ship to me really quick. So I bought yarn this morning. I probably will have it Monday. I might even have it tomorrow. Depends. But that's really fast that I can get it in just a couple days. So I love buying from them. They have a great selection of rustic farm to needle yarns, and it's just right up my alley. So I really love them. I've gone to a bunch of their Camp Tolt nights in the summer and their events and classes and stuff. So I got that email about their Kellibourne Woolens shop update. They got a bunch of Kellibourne Woolens in, and Caitlin Hunter just released a bundle of patterns, a cowl, a hat, and a sweater called Just for the Halibut. And here's a picture of my pattern I printed out. And I bought the pattern when it came out. It's just really adorable. I love this wool. This particular yarn, they make a DK called Scout that is, I think, might possibly be my favorite yarn right now. I have knit 2 colorwork projects. If you've been watching my previous episodes, I knit the Happy Glamper colorwork mittens in their charcoal and oatmeal color, and then I also knit a colorwork cowl called the Eagle Eye in their oatmeal and teal, I think. I loved both the experiences of knitting both those projects. They're super warm. I wear the cowl a lot now that it's just like really cold outside because it's this just double layered woolly wonderful thing. Keeps my neck warmer than anything else I have. So I was very excited when Caitlin published this bundle with that yarn. So I got the email, decided, okay, yes, I'm gonna buy the yarn right now because it's been out of stock, and I'm gonna make the sweater and I'm gonna cast on as soon as it comes. Very exciting. I don't do that much anymore, and I didn't buy yarn all of last year. So being able to be like, yes, I'm gonna buy yarn, I'm gonna buy it right now. I just need to pick a size. What size do I pick? So another friend of mine, or a friend of mine, is gonna knit this for her partner, and we were discussing a couple days ago what size to choose and stuff. And I went into the pattern this morning and picked a size in less than 5 minutes. And then I texted her and I was like, did you start? And she said, no, I don't know which size to choose for my partner. And I was like, well, what if I did a quick video and just talked about some aspects of fit and sent that to her, and hopefully she can, I think she's gonna be in a better position to choose a size now. I'm looking at the pattern when I look down. And I just wanted to share just the process of what I did, and some more aspects. I was gonna do an Instagram video, I still might, but I was like, you know what, this is a long form discussion topic that would be better for a podcast episode. So I'm gonna share just the part of the pattern that you can easily find on Ravelry, so I'm not exposing anything copyrighted of Caitlin's, but on the first page of the pattern, or you can go onto Ravelry and find this information, is the sizes. So it says sizes 1 through 10. It says positive ease of 6 to 10 inches. And then it says that she is wearing size 2. It's a 36. She has a 36-inch bust, and it's giving her 6 inches of positive ease. And then it gives the finished bust circumferences of all the sizes. So with those 4 pieces of information, I then made a, let's see if I've got it. I just wrote out like a quick chart for myself. I'm gonna try to do an insert video of up close of the chart of what I wrote. So I'll either insert that here, but I'm also gonna talk about it just in case I don't get good footage, or people are audio learners as opposed to visual learners, you never know. So what I wrote down was I wrote down the first 4 sizes because I am a very small person in comparison to the size range. So I probably am not gonna fit into I'm probably not gonna wanna knit anything larger than size 4. So I wrote size 1 through 4 on my piece of paper. And then next to that, I wrote the finished sweater circumference of each of those sizes. So it goes from 38 to 42 to 46 to 50. So every 4 inches, she's got a new size. And then I wrote another column that said ease for me. So I'm like, I'm a 32 inch bust. So I took the finished sweater measurements and I subtracted my 32 inch bust, and that gave me positive ease. So for sweater size 1, it gave me 6 inches of positive ease. Second size gave me 10, third size gave me 14, and fourth size gave me 18. With my body and those sweater measurements. And the recommended ease is 6 to 10. So the first 2 sizes, 1 to 2, are totally within her original design range. So I chose size 1. And then I looked at the yardage for size 1, and I found how much for the main color, how much for the contrasting color. And then I add a skein, usually, or 2, because I am very tall. I have to add at least 2 inches to the body of every sweater, 4 inches usually on either cuff. If I really want the sleeves to fit me, like all the way and be really cozy, I kind of have to add 4 inches. So that could be a lot of yarn depending on the weight. And so I added only one extra skein this time because the colors I chose, I happen to also have those colors at home. I have 1 skein of the navy heather that I chose, and I probably have extra oatmeal, which is the contrasting color I chose. So those are gonna be different lot numbers, so I don't ideally wanna use them in the making of the sweater, but I do have them in case I get down to the wire and I need a little bit more. So I felt good with just getting 1 extra skein. And then I purchased. And then I was like, oh, I'll make a video. And then I was starting to think about it a little bit more and trying to describe to my friend how she can choose a size for her partner. And it was like, oh, well, there's actually like more things to consider here. And I forgot that 32 inch bust is the bra size I wear because that's right underneath your breasts. It's not your full bust and it's not the high bust. So there's 3 different measurements that are really useful to know if you're a woman and you're trying to choose a size. And you kind of get a little dissatisfied by knitting a sweater and it being like, it fits, but it's not what I hoped it would be. And that has happened with me a few times now recently, and I think I know the answer. So the high bust is a measurement. You take a measuring tape and you measure right under your underarms, and that really gives you what your shoulder distance is. And it doesn't include your arm, your sleeve cap, but that's all accounted for in the sleeve stitches. So when you're making a top-down yoke or raglan, you are increasing until you have enough stitches for both sleeves and your body circumference. So you separate them and then you're left with the bust, which is where we're picking a size from, is what the bust measurement is of the sweater compared to our bust measurements. But the high bust is just a little bit up, gives you the distance of your shoulders around. So my high bust is 34. It's a little bit bigger than underneath bra section. And my full bust is a 35. So I was like, well, shoot, I already bought the yarn, probably okay, but let's look at the numbers again and see. So like what I did where in my little columns, I had the first 4 sizes, I had the sweater finish measurements, and then I calculated the ease for me. Instead of doing it at 32, I did it at 34 and at 35. And if I make size 1 at Caitlin Hunter's gauge, I'm gonna end up with a high bust. I'm gonna end up with 4 inches of positive ease here, I'm gonna end up with 3 inches of positive buzz here and 6 inches of positive buzz here, which are all great. And it's gonna be a little bit smaller up top than it is down below because I'm a little bit bigger. My shoulders are bigger, so it's all gonna work out, but I wanted to know what those things were. And I often get confused about or forget which one am I using my full bust? Am I using high bust, or am I using just underneath my bust? What I've realized recently when I was using my full bust, for a long time I just used 32 because I was like, oh, I'm 32, and then I realized, wait a minute, that's not quite right, that's not full bust. I have small breasts, so it doesn't actually, it's never really created a problem for me, so I just sort of didn't know that I was using the wrong measurement for a really long time. But when I started using 35, I'm starting to get sweaters that are a little too big for me. And I realized that even though that is the accurate number, in my experience, knitting a smaller sweater is generally gonna give me a happier outcome. So I started knitting like the 2nd to 3rd size. I did it in my Goode t-shirt, the green one, I've shown it on here. I think my Ghost Horses that I knit from Caitlin Hunter, I did that on. I chose like the 3rd size, I think. I got a different gauge for this, so I was trying to like accommodate the fact that my stitches, I think, were smaller than hers, and so I was trying to make a bigger sweater, but I ended up with something that's just a little bit too big. I'll talk about that in a little bit later, but so my kind of idea is this: yes, the numbers are true, but I like a slightly smaller sweater, so I should probably just knit the smallest size, or the 2nd smallest size. And that's just something that I've noticed and experienced, and it's going to be totally different depending on which designer I choose. So I have to be careful if I've knit a lot of Caitlin sweaters and Andrea Mowry sweaters, but if I choose a different designer, I need to be like more aware. Just think about it, think it through a little bit long, and you sort of do a risk assessment of like, how likely is it going to be that this sweater will be too big or too small, or where are you aiming for? So I hope that the way that I wrote things out on the column just gives you more information and it lets you ask the right questions. Some of the other questions are like, this is a DK weight sweater in a woolly wool, and some of it's color work, so it's going to be like less drapey than it would be if it was fingering weight or if it was linen or something. So it's like, if it's bigger and more oversized, am I going to be happier with a like bulkier, more stiff fabric? And ultimately I think no, that's why I'm going to go with size 1 as opposed to size 2. So I think about yarns. One of the other things I think about is how much ease is pictured, because a lot of the idea of how we think a sweater is going to fit us is what it looks like in the pictures of either the designer themselves or on the model. And most sweaters I think I have knit have said this model is wearing this size and they have this much ease. So you can kind of at least get an idea of what that shape is going to look, what that amount of ease is going to look like on a body like that. And do I want it to be a little bit roomier? Do I want it to be a little bit more fitted? And that's where part of the risk assessment is like, kind of it's an estimation, visual estimation. And I haven't knit a gauge swatch for this yet. I tend to have a hard time getting gauge because I'm a continental knitter and we knit really loosely. So sometimes it doesn't matter how many needle sizes we go up, or if we go up too many needle sizes, we're sort of changing the fabric, even though we don't quite yet have the number of stitches per inch. So we'll see how it goes because I don't have the yarn that I'm gonna knit it with yet. And I hope that I can get the gauge that is suggested, because I might have to readjust my size ideas or my expectations. I still might make the size 1, but I might have more or less ease in it, just depending upon what my gauge ends up being. Something else, I haven't read it yet. I know it to be true, so I've sort of bookmarked it in my mind. I got an email, I think, from Modern Daily Knitting, another article from Patty Lyons. If you don't know who Patty Lyons is, definitely Google her, look her up, find some classes. I think she has a craftsy class that I watched part of it, about gauge and about knitting technique, because the latest article that I just briefly saw was, why is your gauge different when you're knitting in the middle of a project than it was when you gauge swatched? And that is a really good question, and how we can better predict the outcome or keep our gauge consistent. Because for sure, I know it within a single object that I'm making, that I'm knitting, I'm not going to have the same gauge at the beginning, middle, or end. It's going to all be slightly different. And most of the time it works out because knitting fabric is very elastic and everything sort of evens out when you block. But definitely when you knit a bigger piece, like something like a sweater, you're going to see more of the, you're going to see more of an inconsistency, or the inconsistency of your gauge is going to affect your piece more dramatically the bigger it is. Which kind of leads me into talking about, I guess, this sweater that is moderately satisfying right now. I need to make some changes. So the sleeves are not working for me. The body actually is bigger than I was hoping, like I was saying, but because of the way that you decrease stitches right before you do the ribbing, it kind of has a nice little tuck in, and so it's okay. It doesn't weirdly flare out or anything like that. It just sort of, there's extra space, but it's actually sitting behind me as opposed to being wider on the sides. So that's worked out. I'm happy with that. It fits really nicely. The sleeves, however, are weird. Like I said, I followed my own gauge and just knit a bigger size, and that's, you know, risky thing to do. So I'm gonna take the sleeve out. What's wrong with the sleeve is it's too big. It sort of has like a princess where I would have a poof, but it's not drapey enough to actually hang. So it's sort of just awkwardly big. And then it's the ribbing is actually too tight on my arm, and I'm aware of it when I'm wearing it too much, because it would just bother me every time I wore it, and I wouldn't want to wear it for that reason. So I'm gonna pull it back. Maybe today I will try to remember to film such things as that. And I think I'm gonna go back to the split and just put the cuff on right away, because I was looking at a video of myself trying it on without the sleeves, and I was like, that shape looks good. I want that. So I'm just gonna add a little cuff. I still have to figure out if I'm gonna reduce the stitch quantity before I do the cuff. But you know, the great thing about doing a short sleeve is that I don't have to knit for hours to get to the point where then I'm gonna make the decision. So I can just play around with an experiment. And this sleeve, little guy, this took 2 hours to do. So I'm thinking that the cuff is gonna probably be, to unravel this thing and to get it back on needles and to make a cuff, I could probably do that in an hour. So I'm just needing to set aside some time to do that, maybe today. But otherwise, I love it. I think it's beautiful. Color work always looks so good on film. I'm pretty satisfied with the horses, and yeah, I'm just looking forward to wearing it once I actually like the sleeves and when it's a little warmer. We had really cold weather this week. It was like 23 degrees Fahrenheit at night, or 28, and that's low for us. And we already had a cold, snowy storm at the beginning of the year where we were at 17 degrees. And so this is sort of like, we thought it was over. We always have a fall spring where we're like, it's over, like spring is coming. And then we get like a storm or something. And so this was it this week. It snowed 3 different times. None of it stuck, which is great, because then we get the effect of like, it's snowing and cozy, but we can still drive anywhere we want. So it's been pretty good, but definitely not, I need my double layer Lofi cardigan for days like this. It's a little warmer today, which is why I'm getting away with not wearing a sweater right now. I am, however, wearing my sister's Braids, which is a cabled shawl, top down, made with the farmer's daughter squish worsted. And there's cables on the side and a cable down the center, and then 3 awesome tassels. Oh, and ribbing, 1x1 ribbing on the bottom, which I'm very proud of because I had to make sure that worked out in the pattern. And my favorite way to wear it is still to cross the ties in the front over the top. Because actually I find that for me, in the way that I move, that if I tie it in the front like this, it doesn't untie and it doesn't slip off. So some people tie and tuck it underneath, and I find that that actually, because of the smoothness of my skin, I think, it unties itself over an hour or so, or two. But if I actually, the friction of wool on wool keeps it in place. So this is my favorite way. Plus you get all the tassels in the front. So I love it. I hope that that's helpful in thinking about picking a sweater size. You definitely get better at it the more experience you get, and there are reasons why patterns are written a certain way. Like this sweater pattern doesn't have just, you know, a bust measurement, a body measurement of like, let's choose this size if you are between 30 inches and 32 inches. Some sweaters are like that. This one is not like that, because we don't want designers don't want knitters to get focused in on identifying with the size as opposed to figuring out what ease they want. What's the ease going to be when you wear a sweater? So a 6 to 10 inch positive ease is a lot of space that can fit a few different kinds of bodies, right? And it's easier, in some ways I think it's easier to knit a size that's going to fit you than if you zero in on like, oh well, I have to make the smallest size because I'm a 32 inch bust. But that may not work out with the ease, with the design, the intentions of the design, you know, to have a certain look. And we want everybody to be successful in victorious in their projects and try to meet their expectations of what they think they're making as much as we can. So I think that this is a great way to do it. But let me know what you think about your experience with sweaters and picking a size. I've been knitting my blue pair of Farmer's Market mittens. This is mitten number 1, and I am on the top cable fold. The mitten is inside out right now. Let's see if I can turn it right side out. Right side, inside, wrong side. Tricky words. I don't think I started the right end to make it easier on myself. This pattern was really successful. I'm really happy with how it was received, and I'm really happy with my mittens, and I wanted to make another pair, and I wanted to make the cuff a little shorter. So this is the cuff on this blue pair. On the gray pair of mine, it's like 4 inches almost, and this is, I think, just about 2. And then you do reverse stockinette. Here's my little thumb hole. And then this will be the flap that I fold over, and you knit that on the wrong side so that when you turn it inside out, you can fold over the cables and they'll be on the outside of the mitten. It's not hard. It's just like, you gotta think about what it means. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really cute. I knit most of this in like a day, so they are pretty fast, of course. I know the pattern really well, so that helps. But I think someone could probably do at least one in a weekend, or maybe both. Hello, they look so cute. It's been actually a little bit since I put it on, so I'm happy with that. I knit also this pair. I knit a smaller size than my I originally did. I think the medium or the large, maybe the large, medium. But I used a different yarn this time. I'm using Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. And there's my thumb cable. Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. Natural Sock. I just happen to have a couple skeins in her naturally dyed indigo that I thought would be really pretty. A couple of my testers knit blue ones, and they were just so beautiful. I really wanted to have a blue pair, and I wanted to have a shorter cuff so that my coat and fingerless mitten perfectly meet. They're gonna meet right there, and there won't be extra length for the coat that I'm wearing most often right now. So I wanted to make another pair, And I'm using 2 strands because something I realized, I knew this, but I realized it again when I started this pair, was that the yarn I used for the pattern, which is a custom Woolen Mills mule spinner 2-ply fingering weight, 4-ply, I can't remember. That yarn is actually really plump. I think it's probably more like a sport weight. So using a fingering weight that's a little thinner ended up being just, my stitches were too small, and I didn't like the way, something that is tricky with gauge, if you're trying to meet gauge and you have to go up and down needle sizes, there can be a lot more space and air in between the stitches. And because you can't make a yarn be plumper. So if you just make the stitches bigger, there's just more space for the stitches to move around, and it just doesn't look as tidy. And I really like tidy stitches. I don't know if that's what you like. I like tidy stitches, so I was like, what if I just go up a needle size and knit 2 strands? And my stitches are a little bit bigger than the pattern originally, you know, the gauge and the pattern's gauge. So I just went down a couple sizes, and I'm making this small, I think. Pretty sure about that. Yeah, and it's working out. And I totally play with the numbers a lot, just like I was talking about here with like, what's your size and what's the recommended ease and all that kind of stuff, to make sure I was not going to get a mitten that was too small or too big. I'm so happy when things work out like that. And so maybe I'll finish this pair today, or this one today. And, you know, it's not going to be cool forever. So I'm always like, oh, gotta make this so I can wear it right now. But yeah, so if you bought this pattern, thank you so much. And I hope that you really enjoy it, and that it's really fun to make. I did get a bunch of new bentos. I think I linked them in a previous episode. I'll link them again. I got a couple different sources, but linen bags are my favorite thing to put my projects in, because you can just tie them up, and then you can put them in your project bag or project basket. I have a lot of baskets, and your projects don't get tangled up together, so they just look so cute. I also have one of them for my bread to live in, because your bread doesn't get hard if you put it in a bento. Let's see. In a different colored bento, I have a white sock. So I saw a picture on Pinterest of a sock that was mostly white with a few black stripes, and so I was like, I can make that. So I got some yarn, and I started, and I'm knitting on a size 1. I'm a loose knitter. It sucks so much. I want them to be sturdier, so they need to be tighter fabric. So I'm knitting on a size 1, and I've never used Knit Picks Stroll before, but I got a few different colors, obviously black for this sock, and I also got some tweed that's brown. This is Farmhouse Heather, this one. And then I got the black and the white. And they're very soft, and I think it's 75 superwash merino and 25 nylon. So I have heard good things, actually. I keep seeing people make socks with yarn from Knit Picks, and I thought that I would give it a shot. I haven't knit with their yarn in quite a long time. And I also have that Malabrigo Rasta giant ball. It's not as big as my face anymore, but this was, I rolled up both skeins together, and it was quite big. And the reason they were both together is because I took it out. So I had knit for, 4 hours or so, and I realized that I was using a size 13, and that's not really what I wanted. I wanted a bigger needle, and I think this is 17, so I went up quite a bit. I just realized I was gonna run out of yarn, and it was gonna be really dense, and would I like that much dense fabric against my neck? And I was like, no, I think looser is better, and then maybe I won't have to buy another skein. This is the Linus Shape shawl. So you start in the middle and you knit on the bias, which means on some rows you add 2, right? Every row you add 1, and every other row you're decreasing by 2, by 1. So every other row you add 1 stitch, but you're adding and decreasing also. So that just takes you in a slanted direction. So you slowly grow and you are moving yourself on the bias. And it just makes a really fun, I mean, this is the shape it'll be, it'll just be bigger. It immediately is the shape that it will always be as soon as you start. And it's a pretty good size now. Obviously it needs to be longer, can all the way around my neck. And I have a little bit of yarn left, but I just love this color so much. It's just so pretty. It's almost purpley in bits and just this caramely brown. And I have a fun little tassel on. And yeah, this is like a project that I don't have to think about. I just pick it up and go. So it is also in a bento. A big one. Doop. Yeah, so I think that's all. Those are those projects. I've got other projects. I think I have 7 or 8 projects. I just haven't moved forward on many of them because I said I wasn't knitting a lot. So yeah, I hope you're doing well, that you've maybe you're having more of a spring than we are here in the Pacific Northwest, and if so, jealous. It has been very cozy here to have a fire and be inside and have it be snowing. It was fun. I get to house sit for friends a lot, so I don't live here, but it's fun to go to a place. I don't have a fireplace at home, so when I have access to one, I'm always just like, oh, I gotta do as many knitting hours in front of the fire with like nice music as I possibly can, because I gotta live it up. One of the things I immediately do when I first walk into a house I'm gonna stay at is I light a candle, usually from Wax&Wool, my friend Kirsty's candle company, and I put on music from YouTube, usually like a lo-fi or jazz, just like ambient music in the background. There's a lot of really great YouTubers from Asia that have great lo-fi channels. I could share a couple down below that I really like. And I make tea. Those are the 3 things. And if they have a fireplace, then I'll light a fire. Those are like the 3 things of like walking into a space that I'm going to be in for a while and like sort of make it feel more like me and to settle in. And yeah, so that's what I've been up to recently. And I'm going to be doing more of that in the next, I'm already like, I'm done podcasting, so I'm going to take my ears off. I'll be doing more of that in the coming months. So you might see me back here again or at another place. And my own house isn't very beautiful. I love the house I live in, lived in it for a really long time, and it's beloved by us who live there a lot. Sometimes, yeah. We love it, but it is like, it needs some work, some TLC, and so it's not very like photographable, cinematic, photogenic. A house be not photogenic, but it's nice to come to another place and take up the opportunity of being in a new space and what angles I can get, and the light, natural light that's coming in. And I love this big window, and yeah, it's fun. Anyways, I hope you have a good week and are having some successful knitting time, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.